Good morning, dear students. In this video, we will learn about different types of joints that are present in the human body. We studied about different types of bones. Now, we will study about different types of joints. So, what actually joints are? So, joints are the places where two or more bones meet. A place where two or more bones meet is known as joint. And these joints, they are held together by strong tissues called ligaments. So these joints are held together by ligaments, and these ligaments reach from one bone to another and they hold two bones together. From one bone, this ligament reaches the another bone, and both the bones are joined together by ligaments. One more strong tissue called the cartilage, it covers the bone at a joint to avoid friction between them. To avoid the friction between two bones, this cartilage, another type of tissue, it covers the bones at the joints. There are nearly 230 joints in the human body. Nearly 230 joints are present in the human body, and to where the two bones meet, that point is known as joint. And the ligaments hold the joints together, means two bones are holded together with the help of ligament, and the cartilage, it covers the bones to avoid the friction between them. This cartilage is strong but it is flexible, means you can easily move the cartilage. Now, what are the basic functions of joint? So these joints, they hold the skeletal bones together. The bones of the skeleton system are held together with the help of the joint. And the next function of joint is that it allows the skeleton to move, means it is flexible so that the movement can easily occur. And this joints, it helps the bone to grow. The growth of the bone is possible due to the presence of joints. So these are the functions, basic functions of the joints. Now, what are the various types of joint? So the two types of joints are movable joint and the immovable joint. Movable joint means the joint that can easily move, and immovable joints are those that cannot move. See, all the joints except the joints in the upper part of the skull that I explained in the previous video, the upper part of the skull is immovable, that protects the bones. Except that skull part, all the joints are movable. All the joints are movable, and the bones of the skull that makes the joints, they are immovable. So these are some of the examples of movable joint, that is the ball and socket joint that is present in the shoulder, the pivot joint that is present between the skull and the vertebra, and the hinge joints that are present in the knees, and the elbows, they are the hinge joints, so they are the movable joints. So first we will study about hinge joints. So the hinge joint allows the movement in only one direction. If you have to move your elbow, you can only move your elbow in the upward direction. You cannot bend it in the downwards direction. So it only allows the movement in the one direction. The next example of hinge joint in the body is the knees. The next example is the knees. See, you can bend the knees in backward direction. You cannot bend them in the upward direction. So now also only one direction is allowed. The movement in only one direction is allowed. Now the hinge joints are also present in the fingers and the toe bones. See, you try bending your finger, you try moving your finger, you can clench your wrist. Okay, you can clench your that part, but you cannot move it in the other direction. The toe bones also, you cannot move it in the another direction. This means that the hinge joint that are present in the elbows, knees, finger bones and the toes, they only allow the movement in one direction. Like for example, take the example of door. You can only move the door in one direction. So this is how the hinge joint works. It works like the hinges of the door. This is the hinge joint. Now the next type of joint is the pivot joint. So this joint is present between the skull and the first vertebra. Between the skull, or you can easily understand it is present between the skull and the neck part. Skull and the neck part, pivotal joint is present, and with the help of this pivotal joint we can move our head up and down and in sideways direction. You try moving your head up, you can move it. You try moving your head down, you can easily move it. You try moving your head in the right side, you can easily move it. You try moving your head in the left hand, you can easily move it. So we can easily say that this pivotal joint helps the movement in downward direction and in sideways direction. It is present between the skull and the first vertebra, or skull and the neck region. This is the pivotal joint. Now the next type of joint is the ball and socket joint. This ball and socket joint, it allows the movement in many directions. Nearly in all the directions we can move, and this is present in the shoulders and the hip. You can turn your shoulders in all the directions. So this ball and socket joint is present in the shoulder and the hip, and it allows the movement in many directions. In this type of joint, what happens, the ball shaped end fix into the cup shaped cavity. That's why it is named as ball and socket joint. We'll show you the picture. See, this is how ball and socket, the ball like structure is fixed into the socket. That's why it is named as ball and socket joint. The ball like structure is fixed into the cavity, that is known as the socket, and it allows the movement in all the directions, that is known as ball and socket joint. The next type of joint and the last type of joint, that is movable joint, is gliding joint. So this gliding joint, it allows the movement of wrist and ankles. So this gliding joint is also known as plane joint, and it is present in the wrist and the ankles, and it is also present between the two vertebrae. I told you that our backbone is made up of 33 vertebrae, and between these vertebrae this gliding joint is present. We can bend our wrist, we can turn it, we can twist it because of these gliding joints. So these are some of the movable joint, the most important movable joints. Again you can revise. Movable joint, ball and socket joint, that is present in the shoulder. It allows the movement in all the direction. The next is the pivotal joint. It is present between the skull and the neck part, and it allows the movement of head upward, downward and in sideways direction. The hinge joint, it is present in the elbows, the knees, the fingers and the toes, and it allows the movement in one direction. The gliding joint, it is present in the wrist and the ankles and between the two vertebrae, and with the help of this joint we can bend, we can turn and we can twist easily. And see, these movable joints are categorized by the presence of synovial fluid. This synovial fluid is present in these movable joints. They are enclosed in these movable joints. This fluid, that's why these movable joints are also known as synovial joints. Movable joints are also known as synovial joints because synovial fluid is present in that. In these joints, synovial fluid is present. That's why these joints are movable joints are also known as synovial joints. Now, what is the function of this synovial fluid? This synovial fluid helps the movable joints to move smoothly without any friction. Without any friction, these movable joints can move very smoothly due to the presence of synovial fluid. Now, there are 4 types of synovial or the movable joints. I explained these 4 types, that are hinge joint, ball and socket joint, pivot joint and the gliding joint. So these are the basic types of movable joints or synovial joints, and these joints can move very freely due to the presence of synovial fluid. So this was something about the joints that are present in the human body, the movable joints that are present in the human body, and the only immovable joint that is present in the human body is the skull, the upper part of the skull that doesn't move. That's why it is known as immovable joint. Thank you.